We are so honored to welcome Dr. Eddie Glaude in conversation with Rachel, NPR's Rachel Martin. It's a conversation that gets right to the heart of the question, how do we become better people in a time of crisis? Please welcome Dr. Glaude, an NPR journalist and host of the Wildcard podcast, Rachel Martin.
Now we got to follow those guys. We got to talk about big, profound things, and we have to be entertaining.
Indeed.
High bar. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Nyla. Thank you, Waj. It was lovely. I think both of us are very pleased to be here.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I thought I would start with just a little anecdote about how I came to New York City yesterday from D.C. I found myself stuck in bad traffic, not exceptional at all, but we were at a standstill not far from here. I got out to just walk because it was going to be faster. It was a pretty sizable anti-ICE protest. And the news person in me can't stop, so then I start filming it, and I call my newsroom, and I'm like, do you want me to file something? But it's happening right now. In our streets, right now. All these issues are coming to bear, being manifested this way. And I thought about the title of this session, Becoming Better People, Faith, Technology, and the Future of Democracy. People were there because technology told them, because people said, this is where this ICE raid is happening, show up now. Technology allowed that to happen. Everyone was filming it with their phones, sending it out to their respective networks in their respective bubbles. Technology was helping make that happen. They were there because they believed in the future of democracy. The faith component came in for me when I found myself walking around wanting to connect with people, which is a thing I often find myself wanting to do, like looking at someone in the eye. And there were police gathered on all these intersections, SWAT gear. Further I went to try to get out of the melee. I still kept seeing them, dozens and dozens. And I tried to make eye contact, and I don't really know why I have this impulse, but I do think it is faith-driven, because I think in times like this, we are desperate to connect with people who we may not see eye to eye with on everything. But it is recognizing the humanity in one another that is at the crux of how we get out of this, I think. So that's my little anecdote to set this up. I wanted to start with a tech piece with you, Eddie, because it is, like I said, it is what brought people out. It is what people were then broadcasting. It has separated us into these little echo chambers, and information is, we're not getting the full aperture anymore. How does that contract our public square? And how does that contraction affect truth? Boom, go.
First of all, it's just a delight to be in conversation with you, Rachel.
Thank you.
You do such extraordinary work. It's a delight to be here. I want to thank Deb and Nyla and Waj for all the things you do. We want to celebrate the people who set up these tables, who put the chairs, who set up the food. So we want to thank all the folks who are making this day possible, the staff behind us. The irony of the question is that I'm not tech savvy, right? I still longhand write all my books.
Honey, look at my notes.
So, but I think it's important for us to understand the way in which tech mediates how we live our values, how we evidence those commitments that make us who we are, that we take are central to our self-conception, and the algorithms that, how shall I put it, excite us, enrage us, divide us, activate those commitments in ways that are distorted. The way in which tech enables a kind of performative virtue, where you don't necessarily live your values, you just demonstrate them by way of being present, or a t-shirt, or screaming at another. And so I think the difficult challenge we face in this moment is involves, in part, How do we live those basic commitments that define who we take ourselves to be, those basic commitments that rest at the heart of our idea of democracy itself, in the face of overwhelming hate that is then amplified by the very technology that makes it difficult for us to live the way in which we understand ourselves to be. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it's concrete. The hate that we're experiencing, the level of greed that we're experiencing, the level of selfishness that we're experiencing isn't abstract. It's not just driven by algorithms. It's real. It's tangible. It's having an impact on the quality of our living. And so we're faced with the question, what will we do about it? And it's hard to answer given all the things that are coming at us.
So if the technology it has brought out not our better angels, the opposite of our better angels.
At
because
times,
we can hide, we can be anonymous. There's a freedom that comes with being able to sling out insults and hate and vitriol, not in person, not looking someone face to face, right? So if that is the power of the technology, and that is what we consider to be the public square. We'd like to imagine the public square is like this. People getting together, sharing views, talking. It's not. It's Twitter, it's X, it's Instagram, it's the dark web, it's places on the internet that foment this hate. Is it imperative to engage in those spaces to try to change minds, or is it sufficient to live in the public square of your choosing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think it's important for us to figure out how to leverage those spaces to reinvigorate the public square. Not necessarily to retreat into them and to try to infect them, but how do we leverage these technologies in order to deepen the public domain where everyday ordinary folk can engage in serious deliberation, reasoned deliberation, which is essential to self-governance. I think it's important for us to tell a story. And the story is not just simply about technology when it comes to the public square. For the last 40 to 50 years, we have experienced the contraction of the public square. Has everything to do with the transformation of you and me from citizens in communion with each other to self-interested persons in competition and rivalry with each other. We can describe this in academic terms as neoliberalism. You could describe it as Thatcherism. You could describe it as Reaganism. But the whole idea was to empty the public space, right? As people then, right, pursue their own aims and interests, right? And so what does it mean to have a robust notion of the public good under such conditions? Right? In fact, that notion of the public good was derided as an assault on liberty, as an assault on freedom, as an attack on my own individual sense of the good. So we've witnessed for the last 50 years the erosion of that space, and then technology accelerates it, where we then retreat into our individual silos, where our prejudices are confirmed, where we choose provincialism. Let me say it differently. That's wrong. We choose to be parochial. There's a difference between being parochial and being provincial. I grew up in a small town on the coast of Mississippi. A lot of folk haven't left Moss Point. So their world is narrow, just like some folk in some boroughs here in New York, even though they're in the largest city in the United States. But the fact that they grew up in a very blinkered environment doesn't mean that they themselves are narrow. But if you choose to be narrow in how you orient yourself, that you don't want to be exposed to anything else in the world. And so now we have technology that affirms the choice to be blinkered and narrow and parochial in one's view, to resist a kind of cosmopolitan sensibility. So technology has a role in accelerating it, but it's not the reason. It's not the sole cause.
Because we were on a trajectory anyway of looking inward and
exactly
the individual boistered and the collective at the
And it was driven by greed, Rachel. It was driven by hatreds. The deep-seated the thing that we don't want to say about who we are, of how deeply racist the country remains.
Does it feel like an inevitability to you then, where we are now?
Where we are now?
Yeah. Donald Trump, the divisions, the protests, the fragility of democracy.
No, just think 5 years ago, we were in the midst of a racial reckoning. 5 years ago, we were talking about that we had to grapple with what was at the heart of the country. Folk were in D.C. renaming squares, and folks on Wall Street were dedicating resources, and churches were trying to figure it out, right? And just 5 years, in the blink of an eye, look where we are. And the only thing I can conclude is folks were lying.
Who?
That they weren't telling the truth. That behind the crocodile tears were smirks. And some of you will say, "Oh, that's too cynical." Well, what does the evidence suggest? I love the ambiance in this room. You can say things that can land.
Oh, I'm sitting with that.
You see?
Yeah, I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what role do leaders and those who support them play in all this? You've written a lot about prophets.
Yeah.
And how we turn leaders into prophets. And Barack Obama is someone who you talk about as being regaled as a prophet, and it was not to our betterment as a country.
I got in a lot of trouble for that, and I still get in a lot of trouble for it. What I try to do in my own work is democratize the prophetic. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see the prophetic as something, as a unique, distinctive feature of a person who's been tapped or touched by some external force. That the prophetic is, in so many ways, our ability to assess the ugliness of the present over and against the way the world could be. To think of the world as it is in light of the as yet. And the as yet becomes the basis for our criticism of our current arrangements. So to my mind, and this is coming out of my reading of John Dewey, where the prophetic functions in the exercise of critical intelligence, it is a crucial feature of the imagination as we run ahead of the evidence. That's William James's language, right? As we run ahead of the evidence in order to imagine a different way of being in the world. So in my view, we all have that prophetic capacity. Now, I'm not engaging in a leveling to say that we're all the same in this regard. But I think, Emerson is really, really important to me in this regard. He says, great people come to us such that even greater people can follow. That we must not become sacks and stomachs, right? We can't, imitation is suicide, he says, right, in self-reliance. We can't give ourselves over to some people who think they're going to lead us to the promised land. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King is a hero, but he was fallible, finite, wounded, just like me. And if history called him, it can call me. Mm-hmm.
But people who voted for Donald Trump believe that history is calling him.
You're lying.
But what do you do about that? You can't just be like, you're lying.
Yes, you can.
But you know as well as I do that when faith is the motivator, it can blind you to certain facts. Right. Because nothing is more important than how you perceive this person through a religious or spiritual framework.
Right, and I think at that point we have to have a counter, right? That is to say, within the context of, say, the Christian tradition, those who claim the mantle of Christianity as a justification for Trump's ascendance, they must be met with a forceful refutation on Christian grounds. That this is idolatry. Right, that there is a way in which we can begin to respond to Seven Mountains theology. There's a way in which we can respond to prosperity gospel. There's a way in which we must respond, right, to the very ways in which people are hastening the rapture. Mm-hmm. right? And we can do so on Christian grounds, right? And in the context of that, sometimes you need an aggressive shorthand. You're lying. Where is that in the book? Let's go. Because we have background agreements, right? A background agreement where we can have the argument, right? And so I think it's important in this moment, and it has always been important. You know, Frederick Douglass said that, you know, the church steeple was right next to the slave auction block. And he said that as an AME because he was criticizing the idolatry of white Christianity on its own terms. And white Christian nationalism in its current iteration is just simply a legacy of that tragic, right, choice to reconcile Christian faith with the selling of human beings. So I think, right, the people who are lifting up Donald Trump, using him for a variety of reasons, scaffolding it with theological rationale, must be called out for who and what they are.
How do you do that when even the terms of what faith means have changed? You hear Christians on the right, especially on the right, almost exclusively now talking about empathy and charity as not being Christian values. So it makes it difficult to engage with a person in a conversation, trying to expand the public square, not contract it, to actually reach out to a person with whom you might disagree, because the terms of even something that's supposed to be basic, common, and ground you together, the terms of your Christian faith, have changed.
Yeah, and you know, we don't want to just limit it to the Christian context, but in this instance, in light of your question, you know, I've been teaching Dr. King in my autobiography class, and there's a line that he uses when we confront folk who disagree at that level, you know, that the image of God is not done with you yet, right? So how do I engage? Right? It's not to collapse that human being, right, into a kind of fixed box and to be able to dismiss them, but really to inhabit, right, a way of being Christian in this instance, of living my faith more broadly, that serves as a counter. When someone tells me about the sin of empathy, right?
Yeah, where are we?
You know, at that point, you know, and you do it on Christian grounds, we just need to go to the cross. Or I'm going to start singing an African-American spiritual or something, off key, because I can't sing. Something. You know, so part of what we have to do, I think, is we have to live our values with courage and conviction. The counter isn't argument necessarily, because it presumes that what's actually at work here is a rational disagreement.
Right. And you have said we only have so much bandwidth in our life. So is it a worthy pursuit to expend that precious bandwidth in an effort to change someone's mind?
I have no interest whatsoever in spending my time, my precious breaths, trying to convince someone that I am a human being. I have no interest whatsoever in trying to convince people that I belong at Princeton, that I am not a DEI hire. I have no interest in trying to tell folk or to show folk that I've earned my position. I have no interest in proving that I love America. I have no concern with that. I am sick and tired of the presumption that white folk possess freedom to give and to take away. I don't have any interest in that. Mm-hmm. We spend all of our energy trying to convince folk to do X, Y, and Z, and then we don't have enough interest to build the kingdom. We don't have enough energy left. I'm spending all my time trying to convince MAGA folk, trying to convince these folk that the way in which they conceive of the world isn't sufficient. It doesn't lend itself, right, to according dignity and standing to everyone. It doesn't lend itself to the world that our children should. I spend all my energy trying to convince them, and then I look up and I have no more energy left to build the world that would affirm the dignity and standing of everyday ordinary folk. I would rather spend my energy trying to build the world where that kind of stuff, there's no quarter to breathe. And they have to make a choice. And the analogy I would use, Rachel, is in 1980 when Reagan decides to take the football from the FDR field and put it on a different field. He didn't ask people. He just did it. And we found ourselves since then living under those conditions. He didn't ask anybody. He just did it. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we have a vision of the world that affirms the dignity and standing of every human being, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your zip code, no matter who you love, no matter what your gender, no matter where if you believe in that, then damn it, believe it. And let's build that world. And they have to adjust.
Mm-hmm. So this goes to my last question.
I'm sorry.
No. We're at time. We're good.
Am I supposed to drink this?
You can.
Okay. It could be decoration. Let's see. Sponsors. Go ahead.
Can you imagine? Brought to you by Saratoga. Those of you who have listened to my show know that I use these cards to have conversations with people, and one of the questions on the card is, how do you keep despair at bay? And so I will end with that, which is a different question than optimism, because you and I have talked about optimism and it's not useful necessarily right now. But despair is a thing that's real. So does this tie into what you were saying earlier? What is your call to action? How do you keep despair at bay?
I can't just answer Irish whiskey.
No, because we all knew that. We know that one.
It's been hard over the last few years. I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. Millions of people are dead. They've disappeared. Kitchen tables have empty chairs. I'm not good. I watched my dad, who grew up in Mississippi, having to ask the question, are we here again? So the first thing I think I have to do is admit that I'm not okay, that the country's not okay. I think our politics feel the way they feel because we're off kilter, because we haven't dealt with mass death coming out of COVID. The pounding of the skull, as James Baldwin says in Notes of a Native Son, the irritable bowel, the intolerable bitterness of spirit, you have to work hard at beating back. But I come from a blues people. And what you do is you swing your feet off the bed and you plant them on the floor and you get up.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we are the salvation that the nation requires or needs.
Thank you.
And that's how I do it.
Yeah. Whew. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got time for a couple questions. Nyla's going to walk around with a mic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I come? Sorry, here. Over there.
All the way in the back.
Hi,
Oh,
good
they're
morning.
mic runners too? They got
Yeah.
you. Oh, y'all gotta ask Waj. Somebody over there ask Waj to run. I want to see him run.
Let me stretch.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. I'm not sure this is on.
Just yell.
Is it?
I don't know. Just
yell.
talk.
Okay. Wonderful talk, but the second to last part that you said, I understand where you're coming from in terms of saving energy to build what is positive, but I wonder if that attitude, if that belief that we can live ignoring folks that think different is what has taken us here. If that saying, I don't engage with anybody who's MAGA, I don't engage with anybody who's from the radical left, is what is taking us here. So my question is, I guess, no, that's what I wanted to say. That I think it's a matter that we all need to think how to balance that energy. But I wonder if that position thinking, I'm going to build, an equal world where everybody's dignity is elevated, regardless of what MAGA says, while half the country is doing something else, it's not taking us through this path that, frankly, is scary.
No, I didn't suggest that I didn't want to talk with them. I said I'm not going to defend myself. I have no interest in defending my humanity to folk, or defending, or responding to an argument that I'm a DEI hire, that the only reason I'm at Princeton is because of affirmative action. Yeah, but that says more about Princeton than me.
So you're moderating your conversations. If he is involved with someone who doesn't agree with him, if that is the vibe you're getting, that's not where you're going to spend your bandwidth.
And I'm building a world. So just think about how the Tea Party responded to Obama's presidency. Think about what was happening with regards to Obamacare, quote unquote, the ACA. And think about now the way some of those very folk are arguing that those subsidies need to be put back. It's not like he had to convince them around the policy. Implemented it because it's going to benefit the country as such, right? And so I'm not commending a world that throws people away. I'm commending a world. I wanted to fight for a world that affirms, the dignity and standing that allows people to dream dreams and make those dreams a reality, irregardless of the ideological position. Right? So whether you hate me or not, I can give less than a damn. I want your children to be able to grow up to be the best human beings possible. And so, but I'm not going to argue about my humanity in the pursuit of that world. I'll be damned. I'm going to reject sentimentalized approaches to the issue of justice, right? Because justice is not, right, a philanthropic enterprise. It's not a charitable gesture, something that you can give to me. I want to reject that out of hand and hopefully recenter how we do the work of building a better world, right, with love. Right?
Thank you, Professor.
Sure, Doc.
Wonderful conversation. As a person who clearly adores words, I wanted to get...
Hey, is that a smell?
No, not at all.
No,
no. I mean that in
Sounds like
the
my
deepest
mama.
sincerity. At a time when words are under attack, that the words that describe diversity, equity, inclusion are under assault, and there is this level of capitulation that we are seeing, and some are saying that, well, you can keep change the language but keep the charge. And I'm curious if you think that's true. Can we change the language, or do we therefore rewrite the story?
It all depends. In some places, if you don't change the language, you get locked up. And the beauty of language is that it affords us a myriad of ways to describe what we're doing. W.V. O'Quine has this wonderful formulation: when you have a conflict and the word is getting in the way, let's explicate by elimination. Let's get rid of the word and just deal with the definitions. And maybe we can get to something. So in certain places, it makes sense. DEI is a shorthand for some things. DEI has all sorts of trouble, all sorts of problems. So I'm not necessarily committed to the phrase. I'm just committed to the hard work of building a more equitable and just society. And that's the end. And so let's just sit in the power of language in some ways, offer better descriptions, right? And in some places, let's dig in our heels. Yeah.
I guess...
Time for one more question?
Wait, I have to do this. She came all the way here. You made me come all the way here. Someone better ask a question right here. You got me all the way up and made me stretch.
Someone over here didn't ask it. No,
I'm here, but you give her the mic. How about that?
Thank you. And this is why you hire children of immigrants. We do everything.
We just run around. 4 jobs.
I'll be quicker.
Thank you for running. Thank you. So in keeping with that last question about the power of language and your love for language as well, how do you think we can be better at communicating this world? Because I think part of even what was discussed is this disconnect between how we're connecting, how we're talking with one another, and narrating this world that we're trying to be able to bring forth, which is actually in their interest, but is not bringing them on board the same way. So.
Yeah, that's interesting, and we only have a short period of time. I'm going to come at it in a different sort of way. You know, we're walking mysteries to each other. We live in hyper-segregated environments. You know, I'm at the height of my career, but when I leave this place, I'm going to go into a basically all-black environment. That's all you need to do is think about your last wedding that you attended. How diverse was it? We have to understand that, you know, hatred festers in the intimate spaces. You know what you hear around your tables, in your friendships. People knew who killed Emmett Till because they drank beer with him. They played checkers with him. Folk know who went to the Congress Jan 6 because they coached the soccer teams. Y'all know what you hear. And we love these folk. We just don't want Uncle Billy to bring up that nonsense over Thanksgiving dinner. So what does it mean for us to be more authentic and loving and honest in how we engage each other, to stop wearing the mask and to stop dancing so that we can be in true and right relation with each other? We can't be in true and right relation if we're lying all the time. And then there's Dostoevsky's Grand Inquisitor. They suffer because they lie.
Eddie Glaude, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having us.
Spicy. You drink the water?